Hey everybody, it's Morty, the JavaScript party, and my buddy Rhett back there. You probably can't see her; she's down in the corner. You could hear her there probably for a second. So as just a quick sort of architectural trip. So we have our app component. Inside it, we have our components, and we have one component, and it's called Viz. We have a bunch of interfaces, um, and we have a specific one for animation, and then we have three, which is a bunch of them, which are it's in ST. So these are our versions, our doppelgangers of the three objects, and then we have this thing called triple, which basically is just a XYZ sort of thing. Like if you look in here, it's just STX, STY, STZ. Just there's so many things in ThreeJS that have X, Y, and Z. So that was just a way to do that. So now we also have a three section, which this is the piece that interacts directly with Three.js. Um, right now, all we have is three, but we will end up having all basically everything that's in these three animations. We'll end up with one of those in here in this ST. So right now we have camera and all that, and then we sort of did it a slightly different over here because we have uh, everyone's in their own kind of directory on the ST side, whereas these guys just are hanging out on their own. I don't know if it makes sense. It'll be interesting to try both out and see what we like. Now, initially, when I did the first three service, I kind of came up with this scheme to sort of keep a dictionary. Now, the problem is that I really want to generate these IDs on the ST side. The like when we create the renderer, um, this 3GL, this renderer that gets created by this will have an ID. There's no reason for me to create another ID for 3JS. The ID is for Showtime, Showtime in space. So yeah, so that's the deal. So now I think this is probably the absolute going to be. It's always a pain in the butt to do these sorts of refactors, but this is going to be the absolute best time to do it. It's just the best time. Um, so yeah, let's get started. All right, so basically we need this. And we really need, it's probably fine to call this a renderer dictionary. We'll probably call it ST renderer dictionary over on the renderer side. Yeah. Um, so now we're on the renderer side, and you see ST's in front of everything, so it's a little easier to sort of keep your brain from just being completely confused. Um, but I do want to change this to ST. And I really don't want this recyclable sequence to ever be over on the Angular side. So over here, we're going to need to do an import. We have this little blue thing, so that's good. So there's that. And yeah, I'm ready. Are you ready? So basically, when we go to create a base renderer, right now we're accepting a renderer. I don't want to accept a renderer anymore. That should break things, which is kind of the whole point to TypeScript is to be able to safely make these sorts of changes, and then the transpiler figure out what you what you've done. What have you done? Um, so that one generate ID. That is some code that ChatGPT found. Um, and it's kind of crazy because like today I was just sort of like wondering, like when I code and really when I do anything, I generally like to be able to just understand everything that's going on. Now, that's not always possible. Sometimes you just have to get things done. And I'm not just talking about with code, but just in general in life, like if I'm feeding the cats, I like to go and just sort of look at the cat food, think about the cat food, think, okay, this is cat food, this is for my cats, blah, 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 and just really do things with intention. Um, and I like to understand them, like um, I like to know where my keys are. I like to put my keys in a place with intention. And sort of dealing with a lot of younger people, I'm wondering, and I don't, that was not like easy. Like my parents really had to beat that into me, literally beat that into me. You know, um, I don't know if they actually physically beat me, but they would be like, they would kind of watch me just sort of lay things down in weird places, and then they would be like, "Where did wait maybe 2 minutes?" And they'd be like, "Where'd you put such and such?" And I'd be like, "Oh," and they'd be like, "Yeah, you said it there. You need to put things with purpose." Um, and then like another thing is if I was ever in something, they were very very strict about me always leaving it as I found it, so that as if so if I went into the refrigerator and I got some orange juice, let's say, and I poured some orange juice and I put it back, I should put it back exactly where I found it, so that the next person that came in would never know that I was there. And man, that those two things really helped. But I'm wondering if some people just like, particularly younger people today, have like they just figure out everything as they go. They never really understand everything that they intend to do. They figure out everything as they go. Which, like I said, a lot of times you have to be that way. But you don't always have to be that way. And there's something very calming and enjoyable. And this bird is Rhett, you need to settle down. Are you going to settle down? I think that means yes. Um, yeah, so it's important to, when you can, like when you can, tie your shoes with thought, I think. When you can, pour your water with thought. You can't always. You might be thirsty. You might be working out and you need to get some water really quick. So you just need to do it. But like when you can kind of have a good grip on what's going on in your life, it's probably pretty helpful. And that is the whole point to this project, is that maybe one day I'll have a job working in 3JS or doing something with 3JS. And when that happens, it would be nice to be able to understand what's going on as opposed to try to just get everything working. Now, if I ever had to work in 3JS, I would not spend this kind of time just digging in. But, since I can, I want to. And I chose 3JS as what I wanted to work on as this sort of passion project because of its enormous scale. I wanted something that I could work on for 10 years and still be learning stuff. Like my other thing is the voice API. Yeah, right. Is my voice API one that I work on Saturdays and Sundays. I have to come up to speed. Like I could be through that and fully understand every aspect of that in 2 or 3 months. And then like where would I go? There's just only so much you could do at that point. I mean, I could build a lot of really cool applications, but you know. Um, but anyways, I'll get off my soapbox. Okay, so what we want to do is we want this renderer to get added to the dictionary we um, when we get done making it. And it's going to be a this st render dictionary, and this is the ID is the render ID, and the render st render is what we're storing. So we're creating a dictionary, and then we're just going to return the ID. Now, normally I like to break things like sort of one at a time and kind of fix them, but I'm going to try to do all of it. Render ID. It's kind of funny because we did watch this video right before, and Rhett was just bored. She was just sitting up there quietly. Now she is just going crazy. Okay, so we have stuff broken as was hoped. So the first place is in this viz component. This is the component that generates the visualizations. And so basically what we were doing is we were getting the base render and getting the ID. Now we're going to get, oh, okay, so let's go back because we also need to create a function that returns a render for by ID. So get render by ID. And this is going to take an ID and a number, which is a number. And it's going to return an st render. And all it's going to do is return this dot st render dictionary ID. That's all. That's all it does. And then, so now, when we come over here into our visualization component, we want to get our renderer ID. Is equal to this st renderer service get base renderer. And then we are going to get renderer for ID or by ID. So we got our ST visualization and we're all good. Now, so we broke all that stuff. Everything's working. I don't know how deep my understanding of all the changes we just made are, but I think the next thing to do is to go into the renderer service. Now, create renderer, and now we're going to have an ID, which is a number. We are no longer going to generate the ID. We are going to basically that. And we're just going to return the ID that we just got. And we're going to do the great render by ID. And we no longer need this sequence service in here. So we can get rid of the references to it. And we really do not want those coming over here. And I don't know, there's probably some way that you could enforce that. I don't see any reason to do that. Okay, so now over in Viz component, we got something broken again. Okay, I don't think it scrolled at when the last thing. Yeah, this is telling us that it's broken because of this. And then so I think our order is a bit off now. Okay, so we want our renderer ID is going to be here, get base renderer. Okay, so we have our renderer ID there. Right now, renderer service, get renderer by ID. So that all works. We can get rid of this. Something's very awkward about that though. Dot renderer ID, because it seems like okay, so we're gonna put, we know for sure, I feel like very confident that we want to create our renders, our ST render, so our version of the render before we create the 3 render. So right now I'm sort of just kind of going by feeling, I don't like really understand exactly what's happening at the moment, but I'm feeling what's happening, like just sort of feeling my way through this thing. Um, my general gut feeling is that, this is fine. We can do that. I'm a little bit weirded out that in the app component, nothing broke. I would have thought something would have broke in there. Um, and it looks like something did break in there now. So that's a good feeling. It's a good feeling because I was like feeling a little iffy on that. Okay, so what we want is a base. We get our renderer ID by creating a base. Renderer ID equal to this dot st. And there is something st renderer service. Okay, it looks like we don't even, this dot, looks like we are not even pulling in our renders, our st renderer service. Right, so let's just try to do that by memory. Renderer service equals inject st renderer service. And that's a good feeling, right? Like that should be like kind of like a sign that, hey, you're sort of on top of things. The stuff that you're thinking might be true. Okay, so renderer ID equal to this dot st renderer service, and then dot get base renderer. So we're not even going to use this base renderer, but we are going to get the renderer ID, and we don't need to set it because we're passing it and we know. So I want to call this, and let's say a equals. Let's see if it lets us do that. Okay, and I don't. It's not going to let us do this. So this is kind of funny because it's not like this is just learning because it's not really like it doesn't even matter. Like this code is going to go away anyways. Are we inside of? Yeah, no, we're not. We are on that. So I want to run this, but get render by ID. I wonder. Yeah, I would love to just run this, but it doesn't look like I can run it at the top. Everything gets weird. Okay, so I'm just going to call it Val. And let's see if anything else is broken. Nope, everything is good. So basically, this is just sort of a funny thing because I guess, yeah, this is just like a bad smell. But the thing is we're not going to be creating renderers here in the near future, so it doesn't matter. This is just something we're doing just because as we do this code update refactor. As we refactor this code to basically move creating the render ID from the 3 side of the house and into the show time and space side of the house. As we do that, the things will things will break that were kind of dependent on the old system, and then this is kind of like you would don't ever do this, right? Like this is silly. The only reason I'm doing this is because this code probably will never, this right here will never see the light of day. Like this will be gone, I'm sure, before we do the commit. And even if we do, it's not going to be around long. So, anyways, that's where that is. Where are we on time? We are right at 21 minutes. I think we made good progress. Basically, all we did was in our renderer, our ST renderer, we we created a dictionary. Um, we created a ST renderer dictionary, and we moved the functionality of creating IDs into the show space and time side. And then we removed that functionality of creating that. We still want to keep a dictionary over here, and I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe having two copies of the dictionary is silly. Um, but I do think that like it's sort of a mix because it is from a management perspective, it's going to be kind of a pain in the. It could possibly turn out to be a pain in the butt to try to create, um, to try to maintain both. And if that is the case, then maybe even the whole dictionary thing should be moved into its own set of services, like how we have services ST, services 3, services dictionaries, where we have all the dictionaries and they just both share that same dictionary. Um, I mean, this renderer's dictionary is a little different because it's the dictionary of all of ThreeJS renderers, and that other one is the dictionary of ST renderers. So, yeah, no, I right now my gut tells me this is exactly how I want it. Now, this whole thing would look very very different if we were using like stores or something like that. But I don't really want to do that. So that is that. So in tomorrow's video, we will move the camera. We'll basically do the same thing for scene. So we'll have a scene service that has a set of dictionaries of scenes, and I guess we need to do the same thing over here in the 3. Um, so right now, I believe the scene right now gets created. I don't even can't even remember off the top of my head. Does it get created in the visualization? Scene. Oh, okay, so this visualization doesn't. I don't think even creates a scene right now, because it like we don't see anything. It's not. It doesn't have a scene to render. We probably um, try to think. I guess we'll be creating the scenes in here too. The initial scene. Because a renderer at the minimum has a camera and a scene, so it seems like we're going to have to create the camera and the scene for our initial base um, piece, not just the renderer. In the app, when we do that, let's see, where do we create the scene? Yeah, see, we create the scene right here. So we don't want to do that. We want to pull that into its own service. Um, So yeah, we're going to want to create a 3 scene service, and then a 3, and then a show space and time 3 service. And the big question is like, do we want to pull these into their own folders? I think so. Now that I think about it, I think we want to go like this. New folder, render. I just think that having all those services right next to each other is just slightly, like, just slightly annoying. It's kind of nice seeing, just having this nice clean thing, and then you just see the one spec file. So it should, I was thinking it was going to offer to fix it for me. Maybe I said no. I don't remember. But let me click this. Oh yeah, here we go. Yes. Yes. So we have our thing, but it didn't save it. I think we probably have, okay, so it looks like that's the only one that didn't, this guy's, he the only one that didn't save? And then looks like service, render service. Okay, so now this thing is broken because um, it, the change that we made broke the existing unit tests because they want an ID. So I think I can just, yeah, so this goes like that, and then expect render, and it will return the actual render ID. So, and we would expect it to be 1. And then what does this do? And then render, get render for ID. Oh, get by ID. So it's weird that this didn't break the other day. It caught it now that we moved it. Or maybe all we had to do was go over there. So we just fixed some unit tests. So everything seems happy. Let's go ahead and shut it down and bring it back up again. But yeah, so man, now we're up to 34 file changes in this one sort of stream of work that we just did. Yeah, so anyways, tomorrow we'll move the scene into the we'll create a render, a scene for 3 in the 3 folder and a scene in the ST folder. And I guess right now it's like looks weird like this because there's only one directory, but when we have the scene, oh yeah, so we're not creating a camera yet, so we actually need a camera in the ThreeJS too. So maybe, yeah, it probably makes sense to do, I don't know, I guess, I don't know. We'll do either camera or we'll probably do camera in the 3 and build that out. And it's probably better to do camera in the ST, or yeah, we have camera. Yeah, so let's do camera in the 3 tomorrow and get it to where we're generating a camera. And kind of think through, I would think that the base renderer could create its own camera. It can create its own ST camera. It cannot create its own camera. Yeah, I guess what we need actually is our 3 renderer service, the like a create a base renderer. Is that right? No. I guess what we'll need to add here is like an add scene and an add camera method in here for the ID. So you give it the ID and then it updates the. And I guess the way this works is it takes a scene and the camera. So add add scene and camera, because I don't think you can do them in just one. You need to add both. So that will be that. We'll we'll send an ID, a scene, and a camera, and then um, that will basically create the base renderer. Yeah, so it's all super abstract at this point, which makes sense, and I'm hoping that like all this sort of just detailed architectural sort of baseline understand or building out things like in these ways will avoid like in the last effort that I did, um, there was a couple of things particularly around animations, where something that I thought was going to take like 3 days or a day or two ended up taking like an entire month. Um, and it was just because everything was so abstract, and then like there were so many unintended consequences. So that's what I'm trying to avoid this time. It'll be very interesting to see come, the end of March, if we're still toiling around inside of this stuff. If that is, sort of just building things like this, it's going to be pretty disturbing. But we are, 29 days into this application, and we are just barely crawling along. Um, but like if it's like we know from sort of watching the last videos and the last thing that at the end we were able to just add a whole bunch of types of of types. We spent a bunch of time. That was probably the only. So of all the code that I wrote for that, the only code that just really was really well, like everything just it came together really well, was the piece that created the meshes, and and then we were able to add all the meshes in like a week and a half, and like just do this massive move forward. And see, what I would like to do is have that same level of like organization so that that can happen, but for animations, for lights, for everything, so that we can move massively forward, um, all at one time. But then this is also a little bit more or a lot more complex because I want to be able to have like a bunch of animations at the same time, which that adds another layer of complexity. Um, and I just don't think that, like, yeah, maybe we could be a lot farther along if I didn't have like, if it was kind of like the last one where it was just like, hey, there's one visualization and that's it. Um, but I that's still a dead end, and it would be very almost impossible to go back and refit that stuff so that we could have lots of them if I built it just for one. Anyways, yeah, so that's a long video. Sorry about that. Rhett did go crazy there for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then she settled down. Um, Happy coding, everybody. Bye.